Hey everyone, so let's talk about a really big question. How do we actually know if a country is doing well? I mean, is it just about how much money it has, or is there a better, more human way to look at things? Let's get into it.
We're always hearing about the wealthiest nations, the ones with booming economies. But does all that money automatically mean life is great for everyone who lives there? It's a simple question, right? But the answer is exactly why we need to look beyond just the dollar signs. Okay, so for a very long time, the main yardstick was something called GDP, or gross domestic product. It's all about the money, basically just a big tally of everything a country makes and sells. But then a different idea came along, one that focuses on people, on their well-being, their communities, and the kinds of lives they're actually able to lead. It's a huge shift from just counting cash to really thinking about what makes life good. And that brings us to this thing called the Human Development Index, or HDI. It was created back in 1990 to do exactly that, to shift the focus from a nation's wallet to its people. Think of it as a tool that tries to give us a more complete snapshot. It does this by mixing together three key ingredients of a good life. First, health. Are people living long lives? Second, education. How many years of school are people getting? And third, a decent standard of living. Do people have enough money to get by? It takes these three huge areas and combines them into one single score. So let's start with the bright side. What exactly makes the HDI such a popular and, honestly, a pretty powerful idea?
Well, first off, it gives us a much wider lens to look through. Instead of being hyper-focused on the economy, the HDI brings health and education right into the frame. It's designed to prioritize people's well-being and their quality of life, which, you have to admit, is a massive step up from just looking at economic spreadsheets.
It's also super practical. The HDI lets us compare different countries in a way that feels more meaningful. We can see how they're doing and track their progress over time. For example, you might see a country with a so-so economy but a really high HDI. Why? Because they've poured resources into things like healthcare for everyone and good schools. This helps governments see, oh, okay, this is where we need to put our focus.
And really, this is its greatest strength. It takes these three giant, complicated parts of life, our health, our knowledge, and our income, and manages to blend them into one powerful score. That combination gives us a uniquely broad perspective on how a country is truly doing for its citizens. It sounds pretty great, doesn't it? A simple, elegant number that tells us so much. But let's just pause here for a second and ask a really important question. Can one single number, no matter how clever it is, ever really capture the messy, complicated, full story of an entire nation?
Which, of course, brings us to the flip side. Because like any tool you'll ever use, the HDI isn't perfect. It has some real limitations, and it's got its fair share of critics.
One of the biggest problems starts at the very beginning, with the data itself. See, the HDI is only as good as the information that goes into it, and in some parts of the world, that data can be pretty unreliable or old or just not there. This leads straight to the next issue, oversimplification. When you boil everything down to a single score, you risk squashing all the nuance and maybe even painting a picture that's a little misleading. And then you have to ask, what's missing? I mean, think about it. The HDI doesn't say anything about income inequality, the gap between the rich and the poor. It doesn't measure political freedom or human rights. It doesn't factor in whether a country is protecting its environment. These are huge, crucial parts of life that this one number completely misses. And that gets us to the problem with averages. The HDI gives you one score for the whole country, but that can hide massive differences within its borders. A country might get a great score because its big cities are thriving, but that same score could be masking deep poverty out in rural areas. The average just smooths over all the rough edges. So after looking at the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, what are we supposed to think? Well, it's all about putting the HDI in its proper place. It's a useful tool, but it's not the absolute truth. Let's do a quick side-by-side. On the plus side, it's way broader than just looking at GDP, it puts the focus back on people, and it's great for making comparisons. But on the downside, it can definitely be an oversimplification. It totally ignores huge issues like inequality, and it's built on data that can sometimes be shaky. And that right there is probably the most important thing to remember. The Human Development Index was never meant to be the final answer. It was designed to be the start of a conversation, a really important one about what progress really means. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. If we're serious about building a better world, what else should we be measuring? Besides health, education, and money, what truly matters to you? Thanks so much for tuning in.